Welcome to Digital Nation, your weekly roundup of the best of local TV. Whether it's a historic theatre undergoing a landmark renovation or a new perspective on graffiti, we reveal the things you just don't normally see anywhere else. This week we discover an art exhibition in Birmingham, inspired by life on the inside. Get acquainted with a new arrival at a zoo in Bristol. And we visit a windmill in Nottingham that has received a new lease of life. Loving local? Then let us know what you think by using the hashtag #DigitalNation. First, we pay a visit to Bristol Zoo, where a new arrival has become the centre of attention. Any newborn is sure to generate interest, but it's even more special when it's the first of an endangered species born by caesarean section in the UK. We join Maine in Bristol to meet a very precious primate.
Here she is, Bristol Zoo's latest arrival. The first baby gorilla in the UK to be successfully born after an emergency caesarean.
Kind of hasn't arrived as we were hoping she would. We were hoping for a nice natural delivery, and that kind of wasn't the case. Her mum fell ill with preeclampsia while she was heavily pregnant, and we did, about 11 days ago, we did an emergency C-section on her under full anaesthetic. But she's doing well, and we have a new arrival. Many women will know it's a major procedure. I mean, you don't undertake those procedures lightly, and we only did it because we felt both mum and baby's lives were under threat, and we felt it was in the interest of particularly the mum to perform the C-section to relieve her of the preeclampsia. So yes, it's very, very rare, and in recent years there's very, very few incidences of it being performed on gorillas.
Vets successfully carried out the C-section on the 11-year-old mother, delivering the yet-to-be-named baby girl who weighed just 2 pounds, 10 ounces.
It was fairly routine. It went pretty well. I think the worst part for us was, well, firstly, the mum, Kira, she did take quite a while to recover from the anaesthetics. That was a bit nerve-wracking. And then also the baby, when it came out, it wasn't breathing for itself. So we had to spend sort of 2 or 3 hours trying to resuscitate the baby. Her heart was going, but her breathing was intermittent, and a lot of the time we had to breathe for her. And then finally, she started breathing for herself, and now she's really strong, and it's amazing.
The historic boat race between Cambridge and Oxford along the River Thames may be famous, but the annual races, known as the Lent Bumps, are just as much of a tradition for Cambridge's rowers. Cambridge TV dons a life jacket and climbs aboard as the teams battle it out for prime position.
On your marks, get set, and they're off for another Lent Bumps along the River Cam. Cambridge rowers from the colleges heave their boats along the river as they try to catch each other in a game of cat and mouse, while their coaches and supporters tear after them on the banks. Bumps developed along here because it was too narrow for boats rowing side by side, which means generations of rowers have had to come up with their own unique rules.
We start off 18 boats simultaneously lined up along the bank. They're spaced about 150 feet apart, and they start rowing simultaneously, and any 2 boats that can catch each other and make contact with each other stop rowing and change position in the division for the next day, and any boat which makes it to the end of the course without having contact made maintains its place in the division. We race over 4 days, and so a boat can progress either up or down the division throughout the course of a week.
They've been bumping along here since the 1820s, predating the boat race with Oxford. With crews being made up mainly of Cambridge undergrads, there is plenty of room for unpredictability as new racers try to find their stroke.
Bumps is a very interesting sport in terms of the amount of effort that the competitors put in, because if you go out very, very hard, then you might only have a short race if you manage to catch the boat in front. But equally, if the boat in front gets away from you, you could be racing for 2.6 kilometres, which is quite a long race. The main thing the competitors really need is stamina, as well as a lot of short-term power as well.
Life behind bars is something many of us will never have to experience. But a new piece of interactive art in Birmingham sets out to address some of the issues faced by the nation's prison population. Big Centre TV visited the artists involved to find out more.
This is Akil. He was sentenced to prison for 11 years for drug-related offences. Having served his time, he's now back in the slammer. But this time, it's all in the name of art.
Go to Jail is a public education programme that we've developed over the last 5 years, and the idea of it is to give visitors an opportunity to visit a real prison cell, to try and help people understand a little bit more about what the reality of prison really is.
So what's prison life really like?
Initially, I was locked up for 23 hours a day. I'm telling you, it's one of the worst experiences possible, particularly when you're sharing with different people. At the time, I was on remand, so you have people just coming in and out, just like heavy traffic. Some people go into court, you don't know whether they're going to be released, so you don't know whether you're going to be having a different cellmate. It's pretty rough, to be honest.
For us, time is something we don't have enough of, but inside, it's this element which makes it that all the more difficult.
The thing is that when you go to prison, well, it's not just yourself who goes to prison, you're taking your family along with you. So much of my thoughts was with my family, particularly with my children.
Not only do visitors get to meet with the actors to satisfy their curiosity, they also have the chance to vote on whether or not inmates should have access to so-called privileges like TVs and kitchen appliances. But having committed a crime to end up behind bars, do they deserve this right?
Being sent to prison is the punishment, and that punishing people further within prison isn't necessarily going to be very productive in terms of helping people to change. So our argument would be that you need to treat people humanely in prison. And that you need to offer them opportunities to either further their education or learn particular skills and address the issues that brought them into prison in the first place.
To Nottingham now, where a windmill has been returned to its former glory thanks to a new set of sails and a dedicated team of enthusiasts. Notts TV paid a visit to find out exactly what's got Green's Mill turning again.
Winds of 7 miles per hour weren't enough to get its sails turning today, but for the last year, Green's Windmill has been all systems go.
I think when we didn't have the sails, word spread, the mill's not going to be in action, but it's for the first time in 5 years we've reached over 24,000 visitors in the year, and I just think people have seen that iconic sails going round again, and it's really brought them back to us.
And there have been some big changes here in that time. David Bent was the miller here from 1985 right through to December last year. John Bellingham has taken his place.
David was here for over 30 years. He was here from the renovation of the mill right up until last December. I was apprentice to David for 3 years before I actually took over from him. Yeah, it is good for me and my future, definitely. Better than working in a supermarket. More fulfilling, and it's very varied. I mean, milling is only a fraction of what I have to do here. There's a lot of working with kids, taking parties, stuff like that.
The Mills Trust also acquired a plot of land that used to be allotments behind the mill. And over the past 12 months, volunteers have been hard at work here creating a garden for visitors to safely enjoy. How important do you think this is to the mill to have such a lovely little garden at the back of it?
Oh, it's going to add a new dimension to it completely, and one of the things we are interested in is the educational side, so we've got people planting little patches of wheat and oats and rye and stuff, so to show people where the wheat is coming from.
Being on the doorstep of the Peak District, Sheffield is a prime spot for outdoor enthusiasts. And the city's visually impaired walking group is an organisation that supports people to get out and about. Sheffield Live spoke to the group about the new technology that's supporting their activities even further.
So we've come with the Sheffield Visually Impaired Walking Group to Bishop's House, and we're trialling today some AudioDescribed equipment, which is some new equipment that we store at SRSB. It was sourced by the Sheffield Caption Support Group, and there's some members here of that as well. So basically we've got 10 receivers, audio receivers, which you put over your ear, and then we've got one transmitter. It's going to enhance people's experience of lots of different visits to different places. So Bishop's House they arranged a visit to come here, so it was the perfect opportunity to try the equipment out. But we're also going down to Mearsbrook Park to the Walled Garden afterwards as well. It's really good to have somebody describing, being aware of all the things that they can't see and just describing things to them, just little details that obviously they wouldn't be able to see. When you're out and about, obviously you do get quite spread out, so it'll mean that everybody can hear what the main guide is saying, and they'll be able to describe the scenery and things that are around them as well, and also sort of just be able to keep in touch with people too.
There are 20 people here, and some of them are actually from a hard of hearing group, a hearing impaired group, and it's due to them that we've managed to get to borrow this equipment. But people if you can't see, and you can't in a big group you can't hear. This allows people to follow exactly what the guide is saying, and you can be touching things and exploring things and listening at the same time, and you couldn't do all that without it.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of part 1, which can only mean it's quiz time. In which city can Penshaw Monument be found? Is it A, Bristol, B, Sunderland, or C, Norwich? Come back and join us in part 2 for the answer. Welcome back to Digital Nation. Before the break, we asked you, in which city can Penshaw Monument be found? And the answer is B, Sunderland. Standing on Penshaw Hill, this iconic Tyne and Wear landmark is officially called the Earl of Durham's Monument and is a half-size replica of the Temple of Hephaestus in Athens. The Leigh Theatre in Edinburgh has played host to some of the world's most famous bands and performers, and the building was devastated by bombing in 1941. Closed since 1988, the theatre is now embarking on a period of refurbishment to restore it to its former glory, as STV Edinburgh found out.
Hello, my name is John Paul McGroarty. I'm the Artistic Director of Leigh Theatre Trust, and here we are today in the magnificent Crush foyer of the Leigh Theatre in Edinburgh, which was built in 1932 to commemorate the amalgamation of the borough of Leith with the city of Edinburgh. And we're going to look forward to showing you around the building today. It opened in 1932. The capacity, we think, was 1,400. It was mainly a concert hall and also as a cinema. It was one of the biggest cinemas in Edinburgh at the time. Unfortunately, the building was nearly completely destroyed by a German bomb in 1941, and the theatre remained closed from 1941 to 1962. Some of the most famous names in the world, in the classical music world, played on this stage in the 60s. The theatre was known as the Citadel Theatre for a short time, and Dr. Feelgood, Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, AC/DC, Thin Lizzy, they were all some of the acts that played here. 12 years ago, the council were about to sell off the building and turn it into flats. Since 2008, people have been working hard towards this goal of the Leigh Theatre Trust having total control, and we seek to make a good business plan which will see the theatre reopen within 12 to 18 months.
One of Norwich's best-known music venues has recently benefited from a strong dose of people power. The venue known as the Owl Sanctuary has been saved due to a groundswell of local support. Relocating to a new part of town, the Owl Sanctuary is set to carry on flying high for years to come.
Just a few weeks ago, the fate of the Owl Sanctuary looked unclear. Its lease wasn't renewed by the landlord of their old site on Cattle Market Street, and that prompted a campaign to save it. What followed was outcry in the music community, an outpouring of support on social media, and an outstanding petition response with more than 8,000 signatures.
We had a staff meeting and we sat and we talked about it and said, right, well, we're either going to be beaten by this or we're not going to be beaten by this, and we're very stubborn individuals and we decided we weren't going to be beaten by this. It's been amazing, the support that we've had. It's been completely overwhelming, and it appears that support is a reality as well, which is absolutely amazing.
This is the Owl Sanctuary's new nest. There are now 2 bars on site and a performance area upstairs for gigs. It was transformed in just 15 days, a quick-fire redecoration so that a sold-out gig could go ahead.
It was very much a team effort, it wasn't just me. There was lots of us, there was all our bar staff was joining in, a couple of regulars came and helped, and yeah, friends of mine who owed me favours and have trades came in and helped. I love it, yeah, I think we've managed to move across the ethos, the vibe and everything into a new building, which I was a little bit unsure we could do, but we've done, and I'm very happy with it.
From squid to salmon, from mackerel to mussels, the varieties of seafood that come from our nation's seas are many and varied. But how much do you actually know about them? STV Glasgow went along to a school in Balfron, where pupils have been learning all about fish and their journey from sea to plate.
It's nice to be able to bring a selection of fish from the seas around Scotland, showcase to the children all the different species that are in our Scottish waters. They're learning about the different types of fishing boats there are and different types of fishing gear, which fish are deep water fish, which fish swim in the middle of the sea. They're also learning about how we tell the age of fish and how oil-rich fish are good for your heart.
Yeah.
What's this?
I'm holding a picture. It's really slimy, and Tom has ink all over his hands from the squid, and it's just all slimy. I eat a lot of salmon and haddock and another type of fish, but not squid.
It's kind of just a wee bit freaky. I wouldn't mind trying one of the oysters, but I don't think I'd like it.
I usually don't like them because I don't like the look of them, but I like the taste of some of them. But some of them just look weird and disgusting.
I don't know, I originally thought a dogfish would look similar to a catfish. It doesn't really look like a dogfish or a dog.
We're firm believers in health and well-being in the school and some brilliant activities going on, but our home economics team are doing a fantastic job in linking with seafood for schools in the project. We know that many of our young people could do with eating more seafood and including that in their diet, so we're really delighted to facilitate that through these workshops.
Now it's time for more awesome creativity in this week's Creative Kingdom.
You may not know this, but the first ever team sport allowed into the Olympics started in Aberdeen. Was it curling? No. Was it synchronized swimming? No. Was it underwater combat? Yes! In 1877, a local water sports pioneer called William Wilson devised a game he called aquatic football, and the first game was played in the River Dee. Unlike the Granite City itself, you had to be an absolute rock to play it. You could perform wrestling moves, holding the ball carrier under the water was legal, the goalie stood on the bank and could stop opponents from shooting by jumping on them. To use the vernacular, it was a right old stramash. Eventually, the softies in London changed the rules and called it water polo, because it sounded nicer. Proof once again that when it comes to creativity, innovation, and having a slaughter in the water, in Aberdeen Mint.
Some call it art, and others call it vandalism. But love it or hate it, graffiti is here to stay. Now a venue in Liverpool dedicated to graffiti arts is working to change public perceptions and establish graffiti as a legitimate art form. Bay TV went along to Zap Graffiti Arts to find out more.
Zap Graffiti Arts in Liverpool plays host to a month-long exhibition,
from world-renowned graffiti artist Elf, who's hoping to inspire a new generation of artists.
The work's it's sort of the stuff I used to paint as a graffiti artist, but then it's also mixed with like some animation stuff that I've been doing. So it's kind of like drawing. I've used a projector and draw, like run the animations, but then draw on top of like the projections. So it creates these kind of patterns that move around the walls.
It's a developing scene, and people also come from all over the UK and further afield just to paint in Liverpool because of the wall spaces that we have. So it's quite unique.
Some think people of Liverpool in general, and the City Council in particular, have a way to go before attitudes toward graffiti change.
The city, for all of its strengths, and it has an awful lot of strengths, it doesn't value it's daft to say it doesn't value its own people. One of the joys of a street artist is that you're provoking a response. You're actually going out of a gallery, you're going into the streets, and you're saying, this is of some value. You're maybe arguing that, and you may not even believe it yourself. It might be that you stand there on the corner going, terrified that you're going to get something. But when we ran Market last time, what we found was that the artists who came here found this the most rewarding experience of any of the festivals they'd been to that year.
Finally tonight, we take a trip to Caerphilly to a castle with a very unusual visitor. As part of the Wales Year of Adventure, a red-eyed, fire-breathing dragon has become the historic monument's star attraction. And Made in Cardiff were on hand for a close encounter with this reptilian monster.
What a great day. You can just see from around you all the school children, all the people coming out to take pictures. You know, this is Wales's Year of Adventure, and what better way to kickstart our Historic Adventures campaign than having this fantastic dragon creation here at Caerphilly Castle today. What we have here is one of the most fantastic castles that you'll find in Western Europe, really. It's the largest castle in Wales, and what we're really trying to do with our Historic Adventures campaign is show that our castles and monuments across Wales are inspiring places, and we want people to come and visit them, have adventures. So the dragon's just a way of bringing people to the site and doing something really cool, but actually it's great for us if they come in and see the site as well and just learn a bit more about the history.
So this has been 2 or 3 months in the planning, and we've actually been building it for about 6 weeks now. There was three weeks worth of sculpting with polystyrene and clay to get all the detail, and then 2 to 3 weeks of moulding it, casting it, and painting it. It's got a smoke machine inside that's on a timer, so just to add a little bit of extra detail. And actually, although you can't see it now, in the dark or dusk, you'll see the eyes lighting up as well.
And that completes our rundown of the best of local. If our stories have inspired you, then don't forget there's more you can see on each of the local TV channels' websites. Or why not catch up on previous episodes of the show by visiting bbc.co.uk/Digital Nation. So until next week, goodbye.